Well, thank everyone once again for being with us with another BDC workshop. We're very happy to have you here with us. We have an amazing presentation once again from Foley, presented to you in partnership with BDC. And this one's going to be a wonderful again. It actually addresses some things that we all kind of look at in our businesses as far as how to navigate our brand as far as influencers and branding and those kind of things too, and making sure we're up on those things too as it relates to our intellectual properties and those kind of things too, and make sure we're taking care of those. The presentation today is really it's a lengthy presentation, and we're going to be going through as much as we possibly can, but we're not going to extend it too far. But as in the past with the presentations, um, please make sure that if you have any questions, please enter those into the chat so we can maybe stop along the way to address those questions based on what you feel like you need to get answered during the time. And always make sure you're muted during the presentation as well, so that we don't disturb the presentation or interrupt the presentation while it's going on as well. Um, and with that, I will just do a brief introduction or just kind of a blanket introduction of the Foley team. I'm just going to say the Foley team, which is inclusive of Lisa and Catherine and Stephen. And Stephen has been here basically every session for the most part, and making sure that it comes together. And I really want to thank you, Stephen and Foley, for just making sure we had these presentations, and this information has been very valuable to the members. And as you can see, they're on here. They really, they wait for the day for these to happen, and they get on and they want to participate. So, and I want to thank all of the members too for actually doing this as well. And like in the past, our new website is up, and I want everyone to go to the new website and check it out. We have a lot of things happening along, as long as the launch of the website. We also have this amazing event that's coming up, and Kevin will actually review that with you at the end of this presentation. Would that be good, Kevin, for you to do that? Perfect. Yes, so Kevin will do that at the end of the presentation. But now let's get started. But Stephen, would you do me a favor and actually make an introduction for the participants today, the ones that are actually doing the presentation today for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi again, TJ. Thanks again. Foley is certainly happy to partner with the Black Design Collective. It's been a great partnership, and also wanted to recognize Laura Ganoza, who's the chair of our fashion and beauty and industry team. She's been instrumental also in getting this off the ground as well. Give me one second. Let me pull up. Pull up the bios for Katie and Lisa. Give me one second. So we have Katie Khalifa. She's a partner in our intellectual property group based at our DC office. She advises clients on ways to develop, protect, manage, and maximize the value of their intellectual property. She regularly counsels clients regarding selection, procurement, enforcement of brands and other intellectual property assets in the United States and abroad. So that's Katie Khalifa, and she's based out of our DC office.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
And let me pull up the bio for Lisa. Lisa is a special counsel. She's based out of our DC office. She frequently advises clearing trademarks for use and registration with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, prosecuting applications, handling opposition and cancellation proceedings before the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board of the USPTO, writing cease and desist letters to infringers, and conducting foreign prosecution of trademarks all across the world. Lisa also represents startups to establish companies with legal departments that outsource their IP work. Lisa's also she also manages large trademark portfolios, conducts due diligence reviews of acquisition targets, prepares security agreements such that companies can leverage their intellectual property and help clients resolve disputes. Lisa has also counseled clients in corporate area, particularly in their use of stock imagery. So that is Lisa Hemphill, and she's based out of our Dallas office.
Wow.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. That was great. I'm going to have you follow me around and introduce me everywhere I go.
That's what I do.
I
So I,
appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you,
yeah.
Mr. Walker. And thank you to the Black Design Collective for having us here this evening. We are excited to share some information with you. And I recently heard that Bob Marley's two favorite things were fashion and comedy, or as he would say, get up and stand up. So I'm looking forward to this. I love fashion as well. I can be found on a Saturday binge watching shows like Styling Hollywood and Project Runway and Next in Fashion. So I love it and I'm excited to be here with you. Katie and I will be sharing information and tips with you that we hope will be helpful when you are ready to engage with an influencer through social media, and that's what we're going to share with you this evening. So as Mr. Walker said, if you have questions, be sure and put them in the chat, and we will try to answer them if we can. So with that said, we are going to follow the agenda. I'm going to share information with you about social media influencers. What are they? Who are they? What do they do? And we're going to talk about selecting the right influencer. And Katie's going to tag in and she's going to give you information and tips for the influencer agreements and special clauses and information that should be included in those agreements. Then I'm going to step back in and talk about interacting with third-party content. And Katie is going to come back and give you a lot of information about the laws and dealing with the Federal Trade Commission and the guidelines there and what that will mean. And if we have time, we'll get to respecting intellectual property and talking about using other intellectual property and maybe trademarks and copyrights. If we have time for that, that's what we will do. So we can go on. So why use social media? Social media continues to grow extremely rapidly. It is just amazing how much it's grown. U.S. adults who use social media increased from 5% in 2005 to 79% in 2019. And we know with everything that's happening now and people having to work at home and work remotely, we know this number has increased in 2020. So it's just continuing to grow. In the US, adults spend about 6 hours a day on digital media, looking at apps and websites. TikTok launched in September of 2016, and by mid-2018, they had already reached 500 million users. So to put this in perspective, TikTok gained about an average of 20 million new users per month over this period. And I am just now learning about TikTok and getting on there and watching those videos, and it's really a good way to pass the time. So social media is exploding. According to January 2019, We Are Social report, about 3.5 billion people actively use social media. That's almost half the world's population. This means that despite everything that's wrong with the internet, like the fake news or hacking or identity theft, every other negative thing that we hear about, most people in the world continue to embrace it and will continue to use it. So there's no turning back. It is here. We're going to be using it, and it's going to continue to grow. Next. Social media influencers, what are they and who are they? The social media influencer is someone who's well known on social media with a great following and credibility within a certain niche or demographic. Next. Who are they? Social medias can be anyone from celebrities. For example, Beyonce has about 155 million Instagram followers. I just read over the weekend that Kylie Jenner has 200 million Instagram followers. An influencer can be a blogger, someone who talks about general lifestyle or subject-specific matters. YouTubers, Rachel Levin, he's a beauty blogger, has 14.5 million subscribers. And let's see. She was once noted as the #1 social media influencer under the age of 21. So very young people to older people who are experts in different industries, such as Gordon Ramsay, who's a food critic, doctors, it can be activists like PETA, or it could be enthusiasts, people who are athletes, hobbyists, or collectors. Next. So social media influencers, what do they do? Often in exchange for money or for free samples of products, influencers provide or participate in product reviews, contests, giveaways, coupons, and codes. If you've noticed, sometimes when you look at the Instagram post, you'll see someone will advertise a special discount code for purchasing a product. So they do that. They will give personal testimonials and they will give other value-added content. An influencer affects the social relationship consumers have with a brand because of his or her position or knowledge or authority or relationship with his or her audience. So why use influencers? Influencers are, let's see, I think we are, remember that, I'm probably telling my age here, but I remember when I was young and we used to get those Montgomery Ward's catalogs in the mail or Sears catalog in the mail, and we would spend I'd spend hours looking at the images and getting ideas about wardrobe or what Christmas toys were coming out for Christmas. And that was the way we did it. That we didn't have too much more, but now we aren't spending too much time on catalogs. Now we're looking at social media to see the celebrities and Instagram idols and bloggers to look for fashion trends and see what the latest things are. We're using an influencer can be an effective way to grow brand recognition exponentially in a short period of time. Influencers are trusted by their followers and they have established relationships. Connecting with the right influencer can build trust in your brand and drive sales by driving traffic to your website after just one posting. In some instances, we've seen that traffic can increase up to 400% after one post. So influencers are essentially a great form of word of mouth marketing. There's a great way to build a reputation for a brand, and it makes for a great marketing opportunity, especially for those in the fashion industry. So when you're considering working with an influencer, you have to think about your goals and what is it that you're trying to accomplish. The most common goal is using an influencer to increase brand awareness. An influencer can target a brand owner's specific market and generate access to a warm market of consumers in a quick amount of time. They can reach new and diverse audiences for you, and they can just open up another channel of marketing for the brand besides the normal streams of ads, like placing ads and in magazines and things like that. So this is another channel that you can use. Being a social media influencer can be a huge big business, not just a big business, but a huge business. There's a fashion blogger named Chiara Ferraiani who started a fashion blog back in 2009 called The Blonde Salad while she was still in school, in law school in Milan. In 2014, she made approximately $8 million from her partnerships. And in 2017, she was ranked first on the Forbes top fashion influencers list. She now has her own fashion collection, and she collaborates with other fashion and beauty brands. So it can be huge for someone. Another fashion blogger, Danielle Bernstein, has more than 2.5 million followers and is reportedly paid up to $20,000 for a single post. There's also an influencer named Nikki DeJager, who in 2015 became well known for showing her face without makeup. And that's how she started obtaining a lot of followers, because they were interested in watching her put on her makeup. So now she has 7.2 million Instagram followers, and now she has reportedly about 12 million YouTube subscribers, and now she's worth about $6 million. And I think she's around the age of 25 right now. So this is a big way to increase your income. There's also mom bloggers, Meg Resnikoff and Elle Walker, the #1 parenting channel on YouTube, and they now command more than $1 million for their partnerships. So it is a big business. Now, there are different levels of influencers that can be engaged. And so we'll just talk about some of these different levels there. You see the nano influencer who may have 1,000 to 10,000 followers. The nano influencers are usually well connected to their followers. They have a high engagement rate with their followers. And many times they probably know their followers. They may have met many of them in person. And so all of their posts are pretty genuine. So this is a good market to use as well. There are also micro influencers who have 10 to 50,000 followers. And this would be a good niche audience. They're well versed in sponsoring brands, and so they're good to use as well. The mid-tier and the micro. The mid-tier usually has around 50 to 500,000 followers. The macro is another tier up. They usually have 500,000 to 1 million followers. And so they will give you a broad audience of followers, and they can reach multiple geographic areas. They are usually known as the trendsetters and are viewed as experts in their area. And then, of course, you have the mega influencers, who would be the celebrities like Beyonce, Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian. They have a broad, even global audience, and have a diverse audience, and usually spread out across the country and perhaps even the globe. So another thing you always have to keep in mind too is the budget that you're going to use, because some of the influencers, as I mentioned, the one charges $20,000 per post. Well, if you get someone like a well-known celebrity like Kim Kardashian, you could be paying upwards of $150,000 per post. So the budget is also something that you want to keep in mind. Sometimes, if your budget allows for it, you can use a macro influencer and the nano influencers, depending on what it is you want to achieve and how big the market is and where you're trying to drive this traffic. If you want just local foot traffic in your area, then you may want to start with the nano influencers, who may be in the same geographic area, but they have more of an influence and can help you reach more people. Next. So there's some tips for selecting the right influencer. First, you want to ask, does the person fit the brand? Have you really done your research on this potential influencer, and is the partnership worth it? Evaluate your partnership goals. You think about your base. The influencers appeal to a wide base, including millennials and Gen Xers. So an influencer can bring you a diverse audience if that's what you're looking for. They will also bring authenticity. Influencers typically share a background with most of their audience, so this allows for them to connect better. And they also bring loyalty. Influencers have a relationship with their audience that can enhance the loyalty to the brands that they promote. So if you want to build followers and engagement, an influencer can help you do that. They can also help you generate leads and sales. Evaluate the influencer. Followers prefer social media personalities they can connect with personally and who they feel are authentic. So they're going to be looking for someone they can relate to. To determine how an influencer connects with his or her followers, you can check to see if the influencer likes some of the comments posted. Be wary though if the influencer likes every comment, because that could be an indicator that they aren't even reading the comments, they're just liking them just to like them. So then you can check the influencer's engagement with other clothing brands, because you want to determine whether they're working with a competitor or someone else who may not align with your interests. So you always want to check that stuff, those things as well. So here we're going to talk about 4 steps that may be beneficial. First, you want to assess the influencer's fit. You need to identify the target audience for your brand. Does this influencer appeal to that particular market that's going to meet your target? Ensure that the influencer's values align with the brand's values. Does the influencer's followers and content align with your target consumers? So you want to ask yourself, do they not only meet with my brand's target audience, but do they also align with the target consumers that we're trying to reach and that demographic? Are the followers legitimate followers? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little later. And does the influencer's overall image match your brand? Does the influencer communicate well with you? Does the influencer timely respond when you reach out to them? These are some things you want to assess when you're trying to deal with the influencer. If they're hard to get in touch with and difficult to communicate with, that may be a red flag as well. So the second thing you want to do is investigate, investigate, and investigate. We can't stress that enough. Now we're going to talk about the DeVume case. DeVume is a social media marketing company. They operated a number of websites, DeVume.com, TwitterBoost.co, and another one, BuyView.co. And what they were doing was selling fake indicators of social media influence, like providing fake followers, fake subscribers, views, and likes to users of different social media platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Vine, Pinterest, and SoundCloud. The customers included a multitude of musicians, athletes, politicians, models, academics, motivational speakers, marketing and other advertising firms, law firm partners, and all of these people were using them to inflate their popularity. So they, at the time when this lawsuit was brought, had more than 200,000 customers. And what they had was 3.5 million customated accounts, automated accounts that they would use these bots to review things and go out and for their customers, and they would like, or they would say that they were following, or they would view certain postings and things like that. So on January 30th of 2019, the New York Attorney General announced a settlement barring DeVume from selling fake followers and likes on social media platforms. The AG stated that DeVume's services deceived and attempted to affect the decision-making of the social media audiences, including other platform users' decisions about what content merits their attention, and consumers' decisions about what to buy, advertisers' decisions about whom to sponsor. So it was deceptive trade practices is what they were doing. Next. So the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, endorsement guide states that if likes are from non-existent people or people who have no experience using a product or service, they're clearly deceptive, and both the purchaser and the seller of the fake likes could face enforcement action. So the third thing we want to do here, the third step, is build credibility and trust with the influencers. If the influencer is not willing to disclose information about other social media engagements that they have, you may want to reassess whether you want to work with that person, because they may be engaged with another brand that does not align with what your sensibilities are or the brand that you're trying to build and promote. So you want to think about that. Brands should limit their partnerships to only influencers who have verifiable followings and accompanying engagement levels. You don't want someone who's using a company like Devumi, which they aren't doing that anymore, but someone like that who's selling followers. Avoid one-off posts and build long-term relationships with influencers that build trust and credibility. You want to have a more successful campaign where you have more than just a one-off post with them. And that's going to build the trust and credibility with their followers. Some of the red flags to look for: fake followers, sudden and inconsistent increase in followers, mainly overseas followers, suspicious following activities. For example, I've seen some posts where I usually go look at the comments to see what other people have to say about a product or what they like, or just to see some of the reactions about it. And sometimes I've seen some posts where it's like the same people are making identical comments, or it's just a little different, but it's basically the same. So then you start to question, what is this? Doesn't look right. So it looks like it's a different person, but they're making the same comments as the person who was 2 rows up from them. So that's something that's suspicious as well. A limited number of posts in relation to followers, that could be a red flag. Little to no social media engagement, that's a red flag. And consistently seeing off-topic comments, that is a red flag as well. Next. So now we're going to talk about a couple of things that can go wrong. We're going to talk about spectacles. So there's a young influencer, he's 21 years old at the time, named Luka Sabat. He's connected to the Kardashians. He's also known to be friends with the Off-White founder, Virgil Abloh. And he had about 1.4 million followers on Instagram. Well, PR Consulting was a firm that was working with Snapchat, and they hired Mr. Sabat to, they were hiring him as an influencer so that he could make social media posts. He was originally supposed to make the post and wear the sunglasses in public and be photographed wearing the sunglasses. So on October 30th, we'll just go through the facts here. On behalf of Snapchat, they sued Mr. Sabat for breach of contract and unjust enrichment. In the complaint, they allege that he agreed to post certain content on social media in connection with Spectacle's marketing campaign for Snapchat. He was to make 4 unique posts, 1 Instagram feed post, 3 Instagram story posts. 2 of the story posts were to be made during New York Fashion Week, and 1 story post during the Milan Fashion Week. He was paid $45,000 up front and was to receive a total of $60,000. But allegedly, he only made 1 Instagram feed post and 1 Instagram story post, and he was not photographed in the spectacles. The case was settled, and Sabat actually was allowed to keep $30,000, but he had to repay $15,000 of that initial $45,000 that was paid to him up front because he breached the contract. So the takeaway is selecting the right influencer is critical. Is the partnership worth it? Once you work with an influencer, your brand is tied to that influencer. So your reputation is going to be based or tied to that influencer. If they become entangled in a scandal, your brand reputation may be affected as well. For example, there are scandals that can happen, and you probably are familiar and remember the scandal involving Olivia Jade, the daughter of Lori Loughlin, who was involved in a college admission bribery scandal. Prior to the scandal, Olivia was an influencer working with Sephora, Dolce & Gabbana, and Marc Jacobs Beauty. Once the scandal broke, however, the brand severed their ties with Olivia to distance themselves from the negative publicity. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. And this is something you probably would want to have in your agreement, which is what Ms. Katie is going to talk to you about next.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, so you've selected an influencer that you want to work with. You've investigated them, determined their followers are legitimate, they match your brand values. Now you're sitting down to write the contract, and what do you want to put in it? As with any business relationship, the key is to be really clear about what's expected from each party. The influencer agreement should spell out exactly what you expect from the influencer with as little room for interpretation as possible. For example, how many posts? How much time between the posts? What kind of posts? Should it be just a photo with a short caption? Do you want a detailed narrative? Do you want an Instagram story? And specify what social media platform. The agreement should also be really clear about the schedule. How long is the ad campaign? And when does the influencer have to send the draft content to the company for review if you want to review it beforehand? What is the deadline for the influencer to share their content? And there, you would normally see it in a contract, but for these types of contracts, it's important to specify the time of the posting, because obviously there's going to be a big difference in the number of postings or the number of viewings for a post that's put up at 8 p.m. versus 3 a.m. So when, what time, those are all should be written out in detail. Ownership is really important. Typically, the content created by the influencer is going to be owned by the influencer. And the brand may want to use some of the imagery or the wording in other media or other advertising. And if you do, you either need to assign the rights from the influencer to the company or obtain a perpetual license to use anything they post that you paid for. Also, is it okay if the influencer promotes competing products during the course of her engagement with you? If not, there should be an exclusivity clause in the agreement. A good way to protect yourself is to tie payment to the deliverables. It's like the case that Lisa was discussing in the spectacles matter. Instead of paying Mr. Sabat $45,000 up front, what they should have done is pay $10,000 for the first post, $10,000 for the next post, and so on, so that they're not out a big chunk of money up front, and it's a good way to ensure that he fulfills his obligations under the contract. If the influencer is not agreeable to that setup, another way to incentivize them to uphold their end of the bargain is to put the payment in escrow for disbursement at the end of the contract. And if company approval of the content is critical, you want to make sure that your agreement says that they're not going to get paid for any post that the company hasn't approved of in writing. Moral clauses. This ties into Lisa's discussion about scandals. You want to be able to disengage quickly from an influencer if need be. So the way to do this is to include a moral clause in the contract, and some sample language is shown here in the presentation. Essentially, it says that if the influencer does something that tarnishes her reputation, the brand can terminate the contract. You should also be able to terminate if the influencer discriminates against any legally protected class, and so that you're distancing yourself from illegal behavior. You can bake in various remedies for breach of the moral clause. They can be termination of the agreement, suspension of the agreement for a period of time, a financial penalty but without termination, or payment of damages by the influencer. It's important when you start to engage influencers, you want to have a detailed plan for monitoring them and their behavior, because you do want to get ahead of any potential scandals and be able to sever ties quickly if need be. This slide talks about some other standard terms that would be included in an influencer agreement. Approval rights. This gives the brand the ability to review, approve, and request revisions to influencer content. Warranties and representations. This is where the influencer promises that she will comply with all applicable laws. Indemnification. That's where the influencer agrees to indemnify the brand if her content is found to break a law, and it could include an agreement to pay the brand's legal fees or fines. And termination. Termination is always an important clause in any agreement, but here it should specify when the agreement starts and ends and what circumstances will allow the parties to terminate the contract. For example, if the influencer does something unsavory. So with that, I'll turn it back to Lisa.
Okay, so we're going to talk about interacting with third-party content. Let's talk about the case of Kim's a Princess Inc. versus Missguided. Missguided is an online fashion retailer, and they sell all kinds of women's clothing. And so we can show the next slide. Social media influencer Kim Kardashian West sued this fast fashion brand Missguided, based in part on their Instagram posts. They were using lookalike models, tagging Kardashian, and using Kardashian's marks and posts advertising other companies' products. So they turned her into an unwitting and unwilling spokesperson, essentially, is what they did, to so much to the point where consumers could erroneously believe that there was an affiliation or some kind of association or endorsement by Kim Kardashian. So the claim that they put forth in the lawsuit was violation of a right of publicity and unlawful misappropriation of Ms. Kardashian's persona and trademark infringement. Missguided systematically uses the names and images of Kardashian and other celebrities to advertise and spark interest in its website and clothing. That's one of the claims that they stated in the lawsuit. And so Ms. Kardashian sought $10 million in damages, injunctive relief, and punitive damages. The latest developments: on July 2nd, 2019, the federal court entered a default judgment awarding Kardashian $2.7 million in damages and $59,600 for attorney's fees. So essentially, the court awarded her $300,000 for 9 Instagram posts that were made where her persona was used and that used her trademarks and her name. So Missguided did not plead anything or defend the lawsuit, and that's how they ended up with a default judgment, and that's what the court assessed as their damages. So you remember that old adage about a picture's worth 1,000 words? Well, if you're using someone else's persona, that picture's going to be worth about 3 words, cease and desist, or 2 words, pay up, because you cannot do that. So be careful about doing that. So usually we start off by sending a cease and desist letter to someone, but if that doesn't work and you send takedown notices and they don't do it, then you can turn to the court system for relief. Next. Okay, referring to third parties. So there's another case, Grande versus Forever 21 Inc. Entertainer Ariana Grande sued fashion retailer Forever 21 for, among other things, using strikingly similar models that resembled Ariana in social media posts to promote his brand. This was after official endorsement deal between Ariana Grande and Forever 21 fell through. Can we just go back to the prior slide to show the images? If you look on the images on the right, that's from the 7 Rings music video that Ariana Grande that she performed and did. And then if you look there on the left side of that, those are images that Forever 21, and I remember seeing those commercials, and I would look at it, I said, oh, is that Ariana? Looks just like Ariana. So Yeah, they used lookalike models again here and gave the impression that there was an affiliation, an association, or that was Miss Grande. Okay, we can go back now. Thanks. So Ariana filed a lawsuit in the district court for the Central District of California, claiming violations of her publicity rights and the Lanham Act, as well as copyright infringement. And pursuant to the complaint, the single social media post on Ariana's Instagram account is well into the six figures. That's what she felt like she should be paid for the endorsement deal, and Forever 21 did not want to pay her that, so the deal fell through. So then they proceeded with copying her images on the commercials that they did after that Seven Rings video came out, and that's what led to the lawsuit. So Ariana's seeking $10 million in damages, and right now the case is stayed because Forever 21 has filed bankruptcy. So we don't know. It's going to take a while before we find out what happens with that. So avoiding problems with using right of publicity. Right of publicity infringement can occur when an individual's persona is used in connection with commercial activities. Corporations do not have a right of publicity, but a persona can include a person's name or social media handles, their likeness, a photograph, video, drawing, caricatures, cartoons, look-alike models, even robot versions of a person, and things and equipment associated with the person, such as professional athletes, jersey number, race car driver, etc. Using a person's voice, like Samuel L. Jackson or James Earl Jones, who has very particular distinguishable voices. You cannot just copy that and use that. And other identifying features that may make you think you're actually using someone else's persona. So avoid doing that. Always get clearance. And a written release is generally required under state law whenever a person's persona is used in advertising or promotion. So those are some horror stories for you to keep in mind, to be wary of using someone else's persona. All right, third-party trademarks is hashtags. Brands should ensure that influencers avoid using trademarks as hashtags in sponsored posts unless the brand owner owns the trademark. Sometimes companies will register their trademark with the hashtag, so you want to be careful whenever you're engaging with someone and partnering with them to advise them if they're making a sponsored post, do not include anyone else's trademark in that post unless you have permission or unless the brand owns the trademark. That's a no-no. Do not do that. All right, so now we're going to get into the FTC compliance rules and some of the laws that are involved to keep you safe. Katie.
Yep. A number of laws govern social media usage, and today we're going to focus on the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC. The FTC is a government agency, and its mission is to prevent business practices that are anti-competitive or deceptive or unfair to consumers. One of the ways it does this is to monitor advertisements. And to be clear, a social media post from a company or brand is an advertisement. And likewise, a sponsored social media post from an influencer is an advertisement. And they're both subject to the FTC oversight. To meet the FTC's requirements, all advertisements must be honest and not misleading. And we'll get into what that means. In the context of influencers, honest and not misleading means that an influencer discloses when they're being paid for their work. And due to the proliferation of social media use, the FTC really is cracking down on influencers. In April 2017, they sent out over 90 letters to influencers and the advertisers who were engaging them regarding posts that did not disclose that the influencer was being paid. According to the FTC, brands have a duty to train and monitor the influencers that they work with. The idea behind disclosures is that consumers have the right to know when they're looking at paid advertising. So disclosures are required when there's an incentive of any kind, and incentive should be construed broadly. Obviously, money is an incentive, but also free products or services, sweepstake entries, a chance to appear in a commercial, a charitable donation from the company on your behalf, or travel and accommodations. If there's any doubt about whether something's an incentive, you should err on the side of it is and disclose that the influencer received it. So, where do you put the disclosures? The key is for the disclosure to be clear and conspicuous. So, this slide gives some guidance on where to put the disclosure on some of the most common platforms. The disclosure should be easy to notice and read in the time consumers have to look at the image or message. So for things that are ephemeral, like a Snapchat story that fades, it should appear in the first beginning and be on the screen long enough to be able to read it. So what should the disclosures say? They should be simple and clear statements. Brand gave me this product to try. It says that it's an affiliation with a brand and that the influencer received it for free. Or brand paid me to review this. If you're using hashtags, hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, paid ad, promotion, uh, space constraints are no excuse for inadequate disclosures. If there's not enough characters to be able to use to give a proper disclosure, then you shouldn't use that platform. So let's talk about Lord and Taylor. 50 influencers were paid to post Instagram stories or Instagram photos of themselves in the same paisley dress you can see here and tag the corporate social media account. Influencers reached over 11.4 million Instagram users in just 2 days, and the dress sold out, which really goes to show how effective influencer advertising can be. But the problem is the influencers did not say that they were being paid by Lord and Taylor to post about the dress. And the FTC considered this to be misleading because consumers are likely to give less weight to influencer statements if they know they're being paid for them. Lord and Taylor ultimately settled the matter and agreed not to run this kind of ad campaign that's misleading and also to be subject to FTC oversight of their advertising campaigns for a certain period of time. So the takeaways here are disclose all material connections, make those disclosures clear and conspicuous. Space constraints are no excuse for inadequate disclosures, and treat each post as a standalone advertisement. So these rules about disclosures are for each and every post. Endorsements and testimonials are also subject to FTC oversight. And what is an endorsement? And it's anything that conveys support for a product. Words are not required. It could just be a posting of a picture of a product. It could be a hashtag like hashtag must have, or an aspirational statement like I want this dress. What an endorsement is should also be construed broadly. Endorsements must be honest and current opinions. You can't use something from 5 years ago and give the impression that somebody just said this yesterday. They must be typical. So this is a classic example of, I lost 10 pounds in 2 days. And if that's not a typical result, you can't use it as a testimonial or endorsement. You have to also be able to substantiate any express or implied claims. So, for example, if you show an ad with a pair of scissors that can't cut through the stockings that you're trying to sell, that's an implied claim that the stockings are really strong and won't tear or run. So, you have to be able to substantiate that claim with evidence, with tests run before the advertisement airs. And as before, all benefits given to the endorser must be disclosed, whether they were paid, compensated in any way. Disclosures should be part of the message so it can't be missed. The quotes should not be taken out of context or altered if it would change the meaning. Again, it's all about being honest and not misleading. So to sum up, if you're going to use influencers, what should you do? You should train them, explain what they can and can't say, explain their responsibilities regarding disclosures and endorsements, and monitor them. Periodically search, find out what they're saying, follow up if you see anything questionable. Um, this slide just emphasizes that advertisers are subject to liability for influencer statements. Influencers are also liable, but for this audience, the advertisers are what's really important, the brand owner. And so what? So what happens if you break the law? If the FTC finds a violation, the advertiser could be liable for civil penalties of upwards of 40 grand per violation, um, which is quite steep. It could be injunctive relief, meaning you have to stop the ad campaign, or other equitable relief like running corrective advertisements. So develop a training program for the endorsers or the influencers that you're working with that outlines the when, where, and how of disclosures. Um, and remember that endorsements and testimonials must be truthful, current, and not include any claims that can't be substantiated. And monitor your influencers. And I know that we're coming up right on the hour, and I wanted to pause here to see if there are any questions from anybody watching.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
What if what if you don't have the money to pay an influencer? For instance, do you trade with clothing or whatever? If a startup company, for instance, wants to hire someone like, not like a Kim Kardashian, but someone else maybe who's not quite as established as her, is it out of the question to trade with merchandise or something like that, or what?
No, I don't think that's out of the question or unusual. I know that influencers do receive free merchandise. If you want to engage in that kind of relationship with them, all these rules still do apply, and it has to say, so and so gave me this, this shirt. But I think that's certainly a possibility. I would probably target I think the more nano or micro influencers would be more open to that arrangement, just practically speaking, than the mid tier or macro influencers. But certainly that is a possibility.
I have even, if I could, just a second, my daughter has received proposals from people, and they'll put in her Instagram thing, let's collab, and please call me here. And sometimes some of them, I mean, they want to send her like jewelry and things like that. Doesn't cost a lot, but they'll say, we'll send you some free necklaces if you'll just wear it, and post it. And some have even asked her to buy the merchandise. So that is totally acceptable if you want to make some kind of arrangement like that. It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be for the goods. So that's a good question.
Also, I just to jump in quickly, I know that I've seen certain of my startup clients try to trade equity for long-term partnerships with certain influencers or other people that'll help take their brand to the next level. In that, the arrangement for that, it varies widely, depending on the stature of who the influencer is. But if you are a company that's willing to bring on a partner and give them somewhat of a minority stake in order to take your brand to the next level, keep that in your back pocket. Not saying that's something that you should go out with initially, but it is something that I've seen done numerous times.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have another question. I'm directing this to Lisa because it was when you were doing the 4 steps, and I got the first step as being assess the influencers fit. The second one was investigate. The third one was, I think, build trust. I'm not sure about the third one. The fourth one was to check for warning signs. So could you please confirm what the third point was when you were outlining
Yes.
points?
Let me go back through there and find that. Yeah, the third one was building credibility and trust with the
Okay.
influencer.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
So I have a question. What is the best way to find an influencer? And aren't there services or agencies that represent them?
There are definitely agencies that represent them. It's becoming a big business. I think the best way to find an influencer would be organically. So if you're working with I guess it depends on the size of your company. If you're working with an ad agency, the ad agency should have some ideas of who is in your target demographic and who would be a good fit for your brand and help you select that way. If it's a startup, then probably you're more familiar with who are the players in your industry and reaching your target audience. And so, who do you follow on Twitter or Instagram? Who would you want to see promoting your brand? But a lot of the influencers do have agencies that they work with.
I have a question as well. What if you have product and you do what we call seeding the product, where you give it to individuals, whether like micro influencers or even entertainers, and you gift it to them, but you don't require anything of them. But then they wear it and they post it. What is that? What does that look like from you as a brand, when you didn't really ask them for any commitment, but they actually wore it and posted anyway? Is there some requirement for them to do something?
If it's a true gift where you're not requiring them to use it or post it, then it's just a gift and there's no requirement for them to include the disclosures. The FTC is focused on paid advertisements. So that's one where you're saying, here, here is this necklace, and by virtue of me giving it to you, you're obligated to post about it. So if it's a true gift, it is not subject to the same disclosures requirements. I mean, to be on the safe side, it would be good if they say, oh, I got this from, Katie, so check them out at this, website, but it's not required.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm going to piggyback on this. So the person you gift it to, this celebrity, they wear it, and then some member of their team or their agent or somebody comes back to you after it's been posted and say, or maybe you post it. Let's say you've seen them in it and you go behind them and you post it. And then their agency or somebody comes back to you and say, you posted it, we didn't give you permission to post it. Can they come after you with a lawsuit, that kind of thing?
Yes, they can. And so that is what Lisa was talking about with where they're kind of being constricted to be endorsers where they didn't mean to be. There was a very well-known case that happened a couple years ago where an actress, and I'm blanking on her name right now, Katherine Heigl, she went to a Dwayne Reed in New York City and bought something. And the Dwayne Reed Twitter account posted a picture of her, said something like, even Catherine needs us every day, or something like that. And she sued them because she did not agree to have her image or persona associated with that brand. And it's the same principle that, people get paid, these celebrities get paid a lot of money to endorse a brand. And so if you're going to take your corporate account and say, hey, look at, Beyonce wearing my dress, she could be making a lot of money off of that. And so you would need to get her permission to do that. She's entitled to wear the dress in her capacity as a person, but for you to profit from it and to highlight it to the benefit of your brand is what turns it into a commercial use of her likeness that is prohibited. Does that make sense?
That does, it's very
Yes,
tricky.
it does. A lot of sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What is a bot?
A bot is when people can program, they can create computer software programs that will automate the replication of certain text or actions like liking a product, like liking or retweeting a message. And so it's not an actual person that's doing it. It's just a computer program. So it's
Oh, okay.
fake. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I think, will these presentation materials be available to the participants after the program?
Yes, we're working on something where they will be. Yes.
Okay. Then, Lisa, I don't, what do you think? Should we just skip the last section because it's towards the end of the
Yeah.
program, or do you want to run through it?
Well, I don't know. I think we're out of time. So if they're going to have access to it, they can read through it and certainly let us know if you have any questions. We're
Yeah.
happy to talk about it.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I just want to say once again, this has been an amazing presentation, and I think it's something that we definitely will make available for the members somehow, for them to actually have access to it, because there's a lot of information that you need to go back through a few times to actually to get it. But I think what's really valuable about this in terms of the takeaways, and thank you so much for adding the takeaways to your actually information there. But I think it's really valuable for you to understand that the importance of online for your business, but also the importance of you protecting yourself when you actually do certain things online. These laws and regulations are changing. They're changing quite frequently too, as far as how these things are moving, because that online platform is changing and growing. So anytime you can monetize anything or actually put a dollar to it, there's going to be changes with it, especially legally. There are going to be changes that occur, and laws are going to grow around this as well. So this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning, basically, of what's going to be happening to the online service, and also into online business and how you navigate and how you protect yourself, because, and even you as a small or startup company, you still have to keep all these things in mind, because you're still under those same rules and regulations as a huge company online, because you're online, you're still an online company. So you're still actually bound by those same laws and everything too. Again, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Catherine. And also thank you, Stephen, for such a wonderful presentation. And we will definitely, again, be sharing it with the members. And again, if you have any questions after you go through the balance of the presentation, please contact us, and we will contact Catherine and Lisa and Stephen and get those answers for you, to make sure that you also get the information that you're requesting. Now, Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you right now so you can actually make the announcement of these amazing things that we have happening, especially this one big thing that's happening.
Right, right. Well, I am excited because we are having our big end of year fundraiser. It's to raise money for the scholarship fund. We have a really exciting event that's called Pull Back the Curtain. And that event is going to be on December the 6th. And tickets are on sale now on Eventbrite. We have tickets starting at $20 for our members, $25 for your friends. There are $100 VIP boxes, which will be delivered to your homes around the country. There's also $200 VIP boxes, which is a platinum VIP box, which has some incredible things, imported scarves and leather toiletry bags and all kind of beauty supplies and beauty and grooming items within that box. And it is going to be an incredible conversation between our founding member, TJ Walker. He's a bad boy in the world of fashion and streetwear, one of the pioneers. And then also Kirby Jean Raymond from Pure Moss, and who's just recently been appointed as a creative director for Reebok. So it's a huge, 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 post for him. And it's going to be an incredible conversation that I say has been like 30 years in the making, 30 years from the time that TJ launched and pioneered streetwear and urban wear to now where we have Kirby Jean Raymond, who is kind of, moving the needle a bit in streetwear and in fashion. So I want, to our members, you members are required to sell 5 tickets with 1 VIP ticket. That's what I'm asking. It's not required, but I would really appreciate if you get behind this project because it's for students. And then just, and tell all your friends about it, push it out. It's going to be a great event. Foley's also welcome to join in and see, hear this conversation between TJ and Kirby. It's going to be great. So that's what we have to look forward to on December the 6th.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Kevin, for going over that. And I just want to, piggyback on that and just say that, this is a fundraising event. It's for a scholarship that we're actually funding. So this is just part or tip of the iceberg in terms of the scholarship and our outreach this time. Our previous gala that we've done, like in last year, that was our fundraising event and also our scholarship that we actually gave out to a student for FITM, $10,000 were awarded to the student, and he actually completed his degree this year. And
Right.
He did a great job and A student all the way through. So we're very proud of him. But now we've extended the scholarship opportunities, not just to include FITM, but also across the country. We're doing a new project this time where we want to engage the HBCUs across the country, as well as local colleges and universities here in Los Angeles for this program that we're actually putting together. And we want to give away more than just one scholarship. We want to do multiple ones. And so that's why we're opening it up. So it's really important to actually, please, as members, to get on board and, let's put our best effort forward to actually get these funds together so we can actually help more young creatives to get out there and do what they need to do to represent, this creative endeavor and, the collective in general and, become a part of the collective as well. These workshops are very instrumental in doing that as well. And that's why we really thank Foley and really thank all of you for helping and supporting us, Catherine, Lisa, and Stephen with what we're doing, because this only makes us, stronger in our efforts to actually help and actually get this, what we call our BDC community really going and flourishing. So thank all of you once again. And we look forward to the next time. You have something, Kevin?
And we had a quick question from, I believe it was from Gwen, asking about the tickets, if they're tax deductible, and yes, they are, because we are a nonprofit.
Right.
So the tickets are tax deductible. So you can go, again, right onto Eventbrite under Black Design Collective. The name of the event will come up and you can purchase your tickets there. So we look forward to seeing you all. We have another community meeting coming up. You'll hear about that in the newsletter. You have that date in the newsletter, and then we look forward to seeing you on December 6th for Pull Back the Curtain.
Right. And you can also just go to the website as well, and it's right there on the opening page where you can actually have information for the event as well.
Right.
So there's various ways to get those tickets. We want to get you from every direction with that. So please go to the website, and you want to go to the website anyway because it's new and improved. And we're very excited about it. Very clean and easy to navigate as well. All right. Is there anything else today for our workshop? Would you like to say anything, Lisa, Catherine, or Stephen? as we close?
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and I'm happy to hear you talking about the HBCUs. I went to an HBCU myself, so
Oh,
yeah, that's a great thing. So thank you so much for having us. We really enjoyed this.
Great.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so
and
much.
happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
oh,
Yeah.
thank
Great,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you for that
Thank
too.
you.
All
Happy
right.
Right.
Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank everyone again. Okay. Be safe out there and happy holidays, everyone.